continue, obviously, as far as we can go with this. Are there any questions at all from the board? Anybody from anything from the public?
Hey, Boris, you mentioned that it was looking to the, has the outline of this watershed been defined? Do you know what it is, or you mentioned that it could be a little bigger or smaller?
Of the Black Fork Sub-District? Yeah. Right. Right now, the district officially follows more or less the Black Fork River coming up from upstream of Charles Mill. And it's confined pretty much to the Black Fork itself. So as we develop those solutions and start to look at projects that we might want to implement out in the watershed that have positive impact on reducing flooding, it's at that point where we're going to take those lines and start to move them and see what the interest is. Again, we can't move them without local approval, and there's got to be that grassroots acceptance. And for example, Hardfax, there's a township trustee. We're going to reach out to the townships, and we're going to talk about the problem and see whether or not they want to be included in what we're doing. And at that point, then that's where we're going to essentially finalize what is this entity, what's its footprint.
What's this most likely going to result in? Upstream retention of water, or speeding it up, going downstream?
I can't say. I can tell you that potential structural solutions, of course, are dams and levees. That's typically what you see in a flood control work. However, there are a lot of non-structural solutions out there and best management practices that can be put in place, including, for example, things that we can do to the Black Fork itself that could have a positive impact on its hydraulic efficiency. Going back, if we were talking, Mr. Price, 40, 50 years ago, we'd be building a levee and a dam tomorrow. We'd be straightening the Black Fork. There's a lot of things that are no longer as easy to do as they used to be. We now take a hard look at combining an environmental approach with a flood control solution, and that's really where the complexity starts to ramp up. That's what we're going to be looking at. So there's nothing that's off the table at this point.
Thank you very much.
We do have one member of the audience today who's asked to address the board, and that's Bill Baker from Frac Free, Ohio, Charles Mill Lake area.
Thank you, Darren. Good morning, Mr. President, board members, MWCD employees, members of the public. Thank you for an opportunity to speak this morning. I've asked Darren to distribute 3 pieces of literature. My apologies. One I see has already been submitted by Ms. Catherine Hanratty, so there's some redundancy there I apologize for. The second item is from the Ohio Ornithological Society, a recent letter that they drafted to our state parks concerning the wildlife in those areas that I thought pertinent to the watershed as well. And the third is a letter that's been drafted on the public input process, of which we participated in a phone call earlier in the week. And before I read a condensed portion of that statement to remain within my 3 minutes, I would ask you to remember, don't shoot the messenger, please. I'm a volunteer public individual that has found myself in the middle of a controversial issue, and I'm only here as a friendly member of the public today to share with you this information. Since the beginning of this year, and this is a condensed version of the letter that I've given you, since the beginning of this year, I've engaged representatives of MWCD on several occasions and have received an incredible volume of data from many sources indicating that there has been an abysmal failure of the MWCD staff to communicate the concerns of the public to the MWCD board and to the Judges Conservancy Court. Part of this failure stems from the fact that the language of state regulation is ambiguous and allows wide latitude in determining policy at MWCD, especially in catering to the oil and gas industry. Another failure has been the trust of the public in assuming that resource conservation was the primary focus of the district rather than exploitation of resources. We have identified 5 key areas crucial to the improvement of the public input process. 1, time of public input process. It is strongly suggested that a public input period of 30 to 90 days be adopted. This should be followed by a revision and comment period, minimum 30 days, and appeal period, minimum 30 days. 2, scope of information available for public comments. All dealings with the oil and gas extraction process should be a part of public transparency and availability. 3 judge appointees. As was discussed after the annual Judges Conservancy Court on June 2nd, we also feel that a complete public input process would also involve the judges from those districts affected. For oil and gas representation, it would be highly beneficial to have a representative of the specific industry entity available for public questioning at the public input session. 5, accountability of public reports submitted to the board. There are grave concerns over the public input being condensed, revised, and altered to downplay the concerns and desires of the people, and that it would only reflect the desire to continue the sale of water, the leasing of land, drilling and extraction, which is currently being done regardless of actual public input. Using inadequate state regulation as a shield to allow this devastating process of unconventional mineral resource extraction is not only foolhardy but borders on criminal behavior. In closing, let me state that the willingness to engage the public by MWCD is commendable and an improvement of public input necessary. You should also know that we will continue to be vigilant in all the processes of the board and district representatives. If a fully transparent and completely fair, unbiased, and comprehensive procedure is not adopted by the board, we will continue to engage our community, our elected officials, our judges, our attorneys, and the MWC board and staff with all the resources available at our disposal to stop the process of fracking in our public lands. This is an industrial process with associated risks and has no place in areas that are to be for wildlife and resource conservation. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes everyone who had asked to address the board.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to approval of minutes.
Mr. Boyle, before we go to that, I think you need to take note that all board members received letters submitted by Catherine Hanratty and Leah Harper, and they have requested that those letters be included in the minutes, and we will so reflect those letters in the minutes. All board members have received those letters and have reviewed them at this point.
A motion for so moved. Moved by Mr. Horstman. Second? Second.
Just a quick question. There was a pink handout of minutes this morning. Is that the same as the minutes we received earlier?
670 was omitted from your original copy. Budget adjustments, yeah. And it's now been added in.
Only difference?
That's the only difference. And that correction would make the minutes that were passed out. I just made your pink one so you knew that that was different.
Thank you.
Sure.
We have a second. Mr. Horstman. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is passed. Next item is number 4, financial report. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Boyle. The financials are through the period ending August 31 of 2012. Had an opportunity to review the memorandum prepared for you, and I'd just like to highlight a couple areas. In our conservation fund, I mentioned our timber operations, our sharecrop operations. We do have